Welcome to Gray Areas for July 8th, 2025, episode 680. And as promised a couple of weeks ago, I'm gone this week. I'm recording from the past, and we're finishing up our wrestling tier list that we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into. We have some notable names in this section to go as we wrap this up, including Triple H and Sting. But we also need to figure out at the very end if we like where everything has settled. At this point, it doesn't seem like anything's going to crack the Mount Rushmore of sorts. We have the four in the icon tier: The Undertaker, The Rock, Steve Austin, and John Cena. John Cena, of course, since we started ranking this, is now the greatest of all time. So I guess you could make the case he should be the 1-1. He would say that in his heel persona. But regardless, I think with some of the changes we made towards the end of the last part, I'm a little more happy with how this is going. We'll filter some more names in and see if anything else looks out of place. We might also start with a couple modern folks that we were looking at as we wrapped up last time and couldn't quite get to. And I think Kevin Owens is another interesting one. We have, there's a section of, the SmackDown folks, the ones that carried the 2000s, right? We have a lot of them in Superstar: Batista, Edge, Guerrero, Angle. And then underneath them, we have, a smattering of the guys who carried the 2010s, right? Ambrose, Styles, Wyatt, Miz, McIntyre, Hardy. Hardy was also late 2000s, but Owens feels like he deserves to be kind of smack dab in the middle of those folks that are in the draw all bunched together, because he's accomplished as much, if not more, as a Dean Ambrose, as an AJ Styles. And also he has the weight of his independent career before all of that as well. So I guess the question is, should he be any higher than that, or is that about the right spot?
I would have dropped him right around Bray. I think just impulse right off the bat, that's where I would have gone. I also got to operate as though we might not ever see Owens again. I don't want that. I mean, I think on the last show I said, The Miz is a guy who I would honestly love to hear as a commentator. Holy shit, is Kevin Owens another version of, you put Kevin Owens as the retired wrestler on the desk who might still be able to kind of do some things. Owens, man, in the past, however many years I guess it's been of him being around, there's so few people who have entertained me from a on the mic perspective of all of this. Just being funny, being intimidating, being impressed with his athletic ability given his size. I know he's not going to crack near the Orton Rollins stuff, which I really wish honestly he could have or had been or whatever it might have been. But I think he's paying for it's funny, my wife basically said, couldn't believe when I showed her older versions of Kevin Steen and El Generico and what the shit they did in the independent scene. And now we have Owens having neck fusion, whatever it is, surgery. Unfortunately, he's paying for the crazy shit he did. And it comes abruptly. You don't know if he'll get back. I mean, thankfully Edge and Bryan have. Owen strikes me as a very family man type guy. I don't know if he's going to want to. Big E is, of course, making that choice basically right now, where it sounds like he could maybe kind of wrestle if he wanted to, but it's not worth risking. Owens is so fucking funny. I mean, that is the thing. And I don't mean to diminish all the crazy shit he does in the ring. He is one of the funniest wrestlers I have ever seen. And I mean, he would have fit in so well with the Kurt Angle gimmicky backstage shit and the Stone Cold spraying beer on people shit. Owens would have been fucking unbelievable in that day and age of the antics they could have done.
It's reminiscent of what we talked about in the last part with a Kurt Angle, somebody who can be goofy or funny outside of it and still a badass in the ring. Yeah. When the bell rings, you don't want to be in there with Kevin Owens because he's going to apron powerbomb you or whatever, right? You could quibble about him being above or below The Miz, and at a certain level, we're not supposed to care too much about the left to right part of this. It's more about the up to down. I think he has to be above the entire group of Wyatt or Ambrose or Styles or McIntyre because his career has had higher heights. Yep. And again, kind of the non-WWE time, also more longevity than some of those folks have as well. Now, Styles is similar because of all of his time in TNA. But Dean Ambrose, for example, does not have the longevity of a Kevin Owens. So to me, I think I have him above Miz.
Okay.
Because it's okay, DDP is the gatekeeper of that tier for me right now. Because it's Cody Rhodes, Goldberg, and DDP who all have ascendant heights, but just not the length of those heights that some of the folks in the Superstar tier do. Now Goldberg is one of the hottest acts ever, so it's weird, and we talked about him. But like, does he rise to that level? I don't think so. You can argue he's never been hotter than his debut, where he just shows up and beats the hell out of Cena, and it's surprising. You're like, whoa, all of a sudden, like it's one thing for him to be NXT champion, but that, I think that's a good spot for him.
He got blocked by the bloodline angle. I mean, how many matches did he have with Reigns during that time? Again, one of the most frustrating matches I've ever watched is the botch where it's him and Reigns, I believe Royal Rumble, and the handcuffs can't get unlocked. It's embarrassing with Heyman and Reigns trying to pit. It's one of the most angry I've actually been watching wrestling in a long time. Where I'm like, man, we're gonna railroad Owens. Obviously, he's not gonna win the match. He's not gonna win the belt. But I'm like, we're also gonna tie him into this shit match that you've like kind of botched a little bit. I don't know why I have such like visceral feelings about that, but it's pissed me off for a long time. I think Owens fought Reigns on like 3 different Royal Rumbles for the title, just in terms of the timing of when that's been the case. Which, because it's interesting, has Kevin Owens ever remotely been a guy you thought would win the Royal Rumble? For as high on the card as he's been, I never ever, and maybe it's because he's always been in those singles matches, Owens was never the guy I'm like, oh yeah, Owens might deserve to win the Rumble to get a title shot this year. But he's been in the title picture. And really weirdly, he was never in the round, because even Sami Zayn's been in the, oh yeah, it was like, maybe we could convince myself that Sami will win the Rumble. He's not. But like, it's like, I can think about it. Owens looks like never there. The point you made about being intimidating, kick somebody's ass while being funny is obviously the Festival of Friendship. I mean, holy shit, was it so clear where we were going with that angle? And Jericho and Owens made it so fucking funny the entire time to have that obnoxious Jericho angle payoff when Owens just finally snaps and kills him, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best example of, we went from humor to like really genuinely funny humor to, oh my God, like they're trying to have him kill Jericho on screen. It's such a great moment. I mean, they made a set of it as wrestling action figures, like a literal Festival of Friendship action figure set to celebrate that moment of wrestling history, which again clearly means it was pretty marketable. And so you're right. I mean, he spent a lot of time on the indies, is in NXT for a while, and then gets blocked by the bloodline, even if he has Universal. I think he has a Universal title at some point, right? When we have it, we're calling it that. So he has that, but it's like, you're right. That's kind of where he peaks, because Cody's longevity of WWE high card, stardom is what it is. It's shorter, rather, honestly, than Owens' time, I guess, across that, because he was in WWE for longer. But yeah, I mean,
but Cody's the guy.
Yeah, I mean, like,
and Kevin was never the guy.
Exactly. I will forever look back on Owens as one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Like, I will sit there and be like, oh yeah, like these guys are really funny. And it's like, shit, how many people entertained me more than Owens did? And it's just like, it's not as many as I think I originally thought until we looked at the list, and then you said we should go ahead and rank him. And I just have such an appreciation for him inside and outside the ring. I think for a lot of what he stands for, and the stuff that he kind of steps up and talks about and things like that, I just genuinely really like him. And I hope that this isn't the end of him, and I hope it's not the last we see of him around the industry, whether it's even in the ring anymore.
And who knows? He could do whatever he wanted to. He could be a commentator. He could be a backstage guy putting together matches. He might just want to do none of it.
Yeah.
Like, I made a decent amount of money. I just re-inked a new deal before I got hurt, and now I'm just going to go be with my family.
Yep. And I'd respect any of that. You're right. As a booker, I think as a producer and stuff like that, the experience that Owens has across so many different matches and so many different companies and all that, you'd think that knowledge wouldn't be valuable for people. So
Sami Zayn is mid-tier. And my temptation is to try and put him in that Jey Uso range and over, because he has had times where he is to that level, but it's like never quite at that height, and that's the hard part for me. I like Sami quite a bit. He's the quintessential babyface. We obviously know about him cracking up the bloodline at different points through that whole storyline. But if we're going to bring up Kevin Owens, I think you have to bring up Sami Zayn, and the inevitable thing is, unfortunately, again, maybe he's being somewhat misused in WWE. He's never had the same heights that Kevin has. So I have him at like just underneath Kofi, because I don't think his heights are as high as the folks that we have in over, and his consistency isn't there either.
It sucks when Dom's up there, and I'm just like, fuck, I really wish that wasn't the case. But again, faction related or not, Dom has been kind of carrying some segments on TV, and Sammy had to be tied to stuff. I mean, again, it isn't an insult when Sammy. One of Sammy's biggest moments, I mean, let's be real, that isn't bloodline related. Let's just remove all bloodline related stuff. One of Sammy's biggest moments is wrestling Johnny Knoxville on WrestleMania. And that turned out to be so much funnier and so much better than anyone could have ever imagined. And is still consistently looked back on years later of like, holy shit, they pulled that off because his character is so funny and he fit in so well with the antics and bullshit of all that. But unfortunately, that's still where like one of his biggest moments is, and one of Kofi's biggest moments is winning the title at WrestleMania.
And I never really cared for conspiracy theories, Zane.
No, it's not good. It's not good.
He did the best he could with it. It's just not a type of gimmick I like.
It's fucking Ziggler though. I mean, Ziggler did this. It's like, why isn't it me? Why couldn't it have been me? This whole everyone's out to get me shit. Ziggler had already done all that crap.
Yeah. So Sammy is another one where like I love you, but I can't put you any higher. And again, that's going to be blasphemy to some. Braun Breaker, a tier above, but Braun Breaker's a bigger deal than Sammy probably has been at any point in his career.
Yeah, Braun Breaker's also like, I don't know, 12 months away from maybe holding the main belt.
Probably. It seems like that's the direction we would be heading with this faction eventually.
Yeah, like I mean,
Seth some time off.
Yeah, which the man will not fucking do. But it does feel like we're basically Rollins is going to win the belt again, and then Breaker's going to break off with Heyman, and Rollins is going to be broken in fucking half in the ring, and we're not going to see him for 6 months. Ideally, he should go away for 6 months. Just relax.
I'm going to go ahead and put Ryback in inconsistent, which is a tier full of either awful people or people that I just couldn't stand on my television screen, like Alberto Del Rio. So that seems like a good spot for him. Going to go ahead and put Santino Marella in Jobber.
Hey, I will say, again, this shirt related to it. I am very happy for Santino's in-career run in this TNA thing.
Sure.
It's working. It's doing good. I was excited, as crazy it is, to go to the TNA pay-per-view and be like, oh, cool, I'm going to see Santino fuck around. He cracks me up, but obviously he's nothing more than Jobber for a crazy good run as the hunkiest, tunkiest man's competition for the Intercontinental belt. But like that's where he belongs. But he entertained the hell out of me, just like Truth.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and put Lance Storm in the Jobber tier.
That's fair. Lance Storm probably does deserve credit for helping train a shit ton of people.
Oh, absolutely. And he's good in the ring, but it never amounted to literally anything.
The absence of charisma in any way.
Yeah. Just wanted to throw a few more down the bottom tiers to even them out a little bit because I was seeing some of the names of them going past and like, we're not going to rank some of these, but.
So I was like, I guess throwing Road Dogg into somewhere in mid card just makes that tier longer. I was going to have you do that. That was the other one I thought of.
Yeah, him and Mr. Ass. We could look at potentially. We got to get some more bigger names first, though, just to make sure we get to them. We can always speed run through a few more towards the end. Mick Foley, yeah. I don't. First of all, we're talking about 3 different dudes.
4.
Intentionally.
4
I
different
guess.
Dudes.
Yeah. So, like, it's difficult because you're going to lump them all in. They're all Mick Foley. We all know. We're not like, whoa, Cactus Jack was a different wrestler. No. But, like, what do you do with him? He has the tippy-top moments of his career. A couple different ones, really. One of which is at his expense, and one of which is at WCW's expense.
He's with Kane and over, or with Hall and Nash and draw. You're telling me that, I mean, if we're going to put Kane where we put Kane, in terms of he's on the top of the card at times, he falls back down. We're doing funny, gimmicky tag teams. He pairs well with a lot of those major people to help them. But he's not when he's not in those circle with those people trying to be a part of their story. He's not that entertaining. I'm sorry. Like I mean, again, he has the moment of obviously Taker throwing him off the cage, and that's just him being an insane person. It's not like it's I mean, really more than anything. Dude Love is nothing to me. I mean, that character is just nothing. Cactus Jack is awesome and badass and transitions well into Mankind in the sense of, oh, Cactus Jack was a really cool hardcore wrestler, and then he lost his mind because he got bashed in the head, and now I guess he's Mankind. I mean, some of the shit I remember from Foley, like it's unfortunate, but it's like he's entertaining on screen as a character as GM for a lot of my time of watching wrestling. It's like, and I didn't like miss a lot of his stuff, but also Mankind's character sucks for a lot of that. When he's in the all brown suit before he puts on the white like collared shirt, The character sucks. I'm sorry. It doesn't do much for me.
Yeah, I don't know what it's supposed to do either. That's the problem. Is like I don't know where to put him.
When you run him into being funnier and being like a lunatic who just doesn't say no. I mean, shit. I'm sorry. A chunk of that's basically Sami Zayn's bit. Let's be real as well. In terms of like the getting your ass kicked nonstop, but then overcoming it and all that stuff is like for Zayn never got a belt or the main belt like Mankind did. That's why I'm like, he just has to land somewhere around over. He's obviously over. His music hits and everyone gets excited and things like that. But
him having a car crash be the start of his intro music is so funny in retrospect.
Exactly.
And I can't imagine that was designed in the very beginning.
No.
In retrospect, it makes sense. Like, oh yeah, it is going to be a car crash. He's probably going to go through 16 tables and fall 50 feet and all this other stuff. 6,000 thumbtacks. But that was not always the case. Like when he got that music, he was not totally this just like sponge for beatings yet.
But like when a chunk of his thing is like he has the shitty hardcore belt as part of the gimmick of congratulations on, like, we made a joke of him. I'm like, he's like a career differentiation being from a fucking jobber for what WWE did to him versus an ECW career. Like
Mr. Sacco could just as easily be Santino's snake.
Exactly. I mean, R-Truth's obsession with the 24/7 belt, which funny enough Mick Foley introduces, is not that different than the fucking hardcore belt.
Or his obsession with Little Jimmy.
Yeah,
R-Truth has
exactly.
multiple examples.
I'm sorry, he's the high version of what Truth and Santino are combined because you paired him into. And again, it's like Truth didn't also work with Cena like we're doing right now. Like I love Foley and he entertains me to no end, but I think it's revisionist history to look back and be like, oh, what a good, it's like they made fun of him on television for months on end. And then his title win is really notable because WCW made one of the dumbest decisions ever.
Yes, which I mentioned as well, but also it's an overbooked nightmare.
Exactly.
It's a mess of run-ins and interference, and it all works. I'm not trying to take away from the moment, but like the one memorable moment of his career is him basically being laid over another wrestler to win the title.
I won't dive into the way Cody Rhodes actually wins the belt over Roman Reigns.
There is that problem, yes.
I won't dive into that right now. But yeah, like I think the way I talk myself into it, I'm just like, he's a useful tool to break out to make Austin funny or make The Rock funny or make Undertaker seem like the most horrific human being in society. But he's a tool to uplift people, which again is why I said, how much different is he really than Zayn in that sense?
He can't really go in the ring, and that was even before he started having his body fall apart.
Yeah.
That was its own issue, which you completely understood, but like the handful of moves, a few right hands and a pile driver and a couple other things, and you're like, okay, and that's true of a lot of people of that era, to be fair.
Yes.
But it's why it's like, I think he has to be at the very bottom of over. He was over, for sure. You mentioned the pops and whatnot. And he's still beloved, and he'll still tell interesting stories today if he can still like string together sentences. But like, I mean, look, are we quibbling over like should Mick Foley be behind Dolph Ziggler? It's not really about the relative sense. That's the weirdest here to me.
Yeah,
like inconsistent. I know why everybody's in it. Over is like a mix of like these people just didn't quite have something that put him to the next level.
Like how many Intercontinental and U.S. title reigns did Mick Foley have?
I could check. I was curious actually how many titles he had.
Because like tag belts, that's fine. I know he had some.
Sure.
Short-lived most of the time, but he had some.
I'm looking it up. I'm being tech guy right now.
But it just...
First of all, he's 60 now. As of 2 weeks ago.
Again, and I'm thankful that we have him alive to this day because we should actually probably be lucky about that.
I should probably not look at this from Wikipedia because trying to find a list of that's going to be.
You got to go to scroll. You had to tab accomplishments.
Yeah, I've expanded a thing I shouldn't have expanded. Now I'm taking too much time on Mick Foley. Oh boy, writing career, championships and accomplishments. Here we go. WCW. He had a world championship reign with Kevin Sullivan, tag team. World Wrestling Federation. He has the WWF Championship 3 times. He's the inaugural hardcore title winner and the only time he held it.
Which is
8
really fun.
tag team titles, and you're not going to name one of them. So The Rock 3 times, sure. Kane, yeah, we remember. Both kind of freaks, sure. Stone Cold, yeah, once, sure. Al Snow, you could deep dive and pull. I do remember them teaming together. And then whatever the fuck Chainsaw Charlie is.
Chainsaw Charlie is Terry Funk.
Okay. Well, that makes sense given their friendship.
I believe
don't
that's
remember
Terry
that
Funk's
aspect of-
stupid fucking name we gave him. Oh, I only know this because I've watched all the Royal Rumbles over and over again. And I believe it was when he was Cactus Jack.
And that's it, by the way. No Intercontinental titles,
Yeah.
no U.S. championships.
Then you have made me feel much better about the point I was making as being a dick about it.
Yeah. So, no offense. Love Foley. Great guy. Bottom of over. Can't go any higher. LA Knight is on the screen.
L.A. Yeah.
Kevin Nash has come around on LA Knight.
Great.
So that means something because Kevin Nash was notably a curmudgeon about the start of LA Knight's rise a couple of years ago. I think he has to be right around Dominic and Jay. If we're going to classify these other folks as over right now, he gets a massive reaction. He can go on the mic. He's okay in the ring. I'd say even
He's
decent.
gotten better, too.
He has. Yeah, the reps are clearly helping him. Has a great look, a good overall story from how he's gotten to this point because he's older. You know, he's not like a young spring chicken at this point in his career. So to make it now, because you see like clips every now and then of him in a match from one of the independents from like 10 years ago with crossing paths with somebody else who's big now. And you're like, oh, that was like 2014. Oh, dear.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know if I have him at Jay's height because Jay has won a title. So it's probably like between Gunther and Mick Foley for me. But I think he has to go into over.
Really?
I think so.
Okay. I think
you could definitely make the case for mid-card because the titles don't match the status, but the problem is you have to apply the same thing to Braun and Dominic.
You're right. I mean, that's fair. It's like, and maybe we overreact in the moment to who's drawing massive cheers now. And I'm trying to look down and be like, sure, I guess Braun got some like, oh, we were super excited to see Braun and this and that. But like Cesaro never got anywhere near any reaction that LA Knight currently gets on every single show he pops up. And we're also we're not 3 months into LA Knight drawing massive. I mean, we're like a year and a half, 2 years into this now, right? I guess how long ago did he become LA Knight versus being fucking Maxine Dupree's brother?
Right. It's basically almost 3 years now. And that's the thing I'm looking at when I look at, how we overrated it like a Braun Breaker or something. It's like, but none of Braun or Dominic or Jay or Gunther or LA Knight are a flash in the pan. And this has been going on for months, if not years.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that's fair because if we're to the point now where like we're multiple years into him getting a pretty big fucking pop every time he shows up. And I don't give a shit if he's cosplaying the Attitude Era as if people criticize him like, aren't you motherfuckers constantly asking for us to go back to an era like that? Mm-hmm. Then he does it and then he gets shit on for it. I'm like, or he's being pretty funny and entertaining on your screen. And what more do you want for someone in the high mid card?
Yeah.
I don't know what people's problem with him is. That's fair. I think you talked me into it. I mean, again, I love Kofi, and I love Sammy. Sammy does get pretty good big pops. That's the only thing. Is like Sammy does get the crowd.
He does
pop pretty well, and so maybe that's what my apprehension was.
I think there has to be we have a couple different clear lines that are happening here. We talked about DDP being the cutoff for that's the guy. Everybody above him, and yes, even Savage, who was in Hogan's shadow a lot, is like the guy for the company for a time.
Yes.
And no one below DDP is the guy. The guy.
No.
Some of them have noteworthy title reigns and they're big stars, but they're not the guy who carried the company for a span. Similarly, down here, we have this mess in the middle of guys who are currently hot and have been for a while, but don't have the career acumen of a Kofi or even a Sammy when you factor in the indies. So we could look to rearrange those tiers because they're a little odd. But it feels weird to me to throw Braun and Dominic into mid-card when they're so much hotter than that right now.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I guess my conundrum with Knight, in a way, because again, I actually really, really, really like LA Knight. And my conundrum is I'm like, they haven't found him a really hot, good feud to he kind of is creating it on his own. And we found feuds for Dominic to make Dominic hotter than maybe he would be otherwise. Breaker, I think me and you have a lot of projection in where we have him right now.
Yes.
Then again, we also placed him there before he got paired into with Heyman and Rollins, so I don't know that we look that stupid in retrospect of where we put him.
I'm more confident about him than I am anybody else in that group of 5.
Yeah. And so, we'll as night goes on, and then if it dies off, would you come back 2 years from now and kick him back down to mid-card? Maybe. But if you're ranking this in the moment for him, and then some other guys' complete careers because you have that information available, Are we convinced that LA Knight can't get a Jey Uso type of run with the title?
And I think in a perfect world, we would add a tier.
Yeah.
We're trying to stick to the methods that are here, not because we care about the mid-card over type names for them, but because then we can compare to the group list. If you start adding tiers, you can no longer do that because it doesn't file in appropriately, right? It wouldn't match. So I think you could make a case for like a tier right between over and mid-card where it's like rising stars. And you put Braun and Dominic and Jay and Gunther and LA Knight and hell, even like that could be where Chad Gable could move up.
Yeah.
Stuff like that where it's like these folks are hot and have been for more than just a month or two. It's not just like a gimmick. At the moment, with the tiers we have, I'm okay with it, but we may look at this at the very end and see how we feel.
Yeah, because it's, I mean, again, you're right. Because like LA Knight's still kind of doing it. I mean, again, he doesn't have any friends. He doesn't have any alliance people. Like he's on his own. And again, Sammy gets hot and gets a big ovation because he's the adversary to Reigns, who's a heel, except for everyone fucking cheers him. So then I'm like, why are you cheering for Sammy to break up his family? Whatever. You're right. Like LA Knight's pulling this draw on the high mid card of this on his own, and I don't know that we're gonna pull the trigger on him when it should be pulled at some point.
Yeah, you're gonna run out of steam eventually. You got another year and a half, I think, before that starts to become a threat. But sometimes they wait too long to pull the trigger on a hot act.
Like I mean, I think we missed a big opportunity in not giving him Money in the Bank right now. Rollins didn't need it. We didn't need that for the storyline. I think it was a waste of it. Granted, the man running the company is on record as basically saying that Money in the Bank is fucking stupid. Which I disagree because someone like LA Knight, you think LA Knight's going to take that stupid case and be really funny with it for a long time when he's basically a heel but too fun for people to boo, so he's just going to act like a heel in every single way. I mean, he acts like the Miz half the time, but in a cooler way than the Miz, I guess. So I don't know, maybe you're right.
I just think he deserves credit for an era where it's easier to get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, you know what? That's really fair because I did talk about it either on this one or the last show where it's like, yeah, it's really easy to stand out when there's like 30 wrestlers. I mean, it's like No Mercy it's like, well, that was the whole fucking roster. When we got that game on N64, that was basically everybody you were going to see on TV. And now we're getting, WWE games where we're leaving people off who are on the active roster to be downloaded later. Granted, we have a lot of, career people and stuff like that. But you're right. Like he's forcing them to let him still be on TV and be in the upper mid card because people fucking are entertained by his 2 minutes of rambling.
They brought him out during that segment that had Cena and Punk and Rollins the other day and didn't feel out of place.
That's another pretty fair point.
So again, is it a little bit overrated? Maybe. And at first I wasn't necessarily sure if I was sold on it either. I just feel like if you get over and he doesn't have a very good entrance theme.
No, he's terrible entrance theme.
Jay gets a lot of mileage out of his entrance. And it's more than just that, to be clear. I'm not saying he's a one-trick pony, but like LA Knight's entrance, other than having the notable hook at the start, is kind of one of those themes that you just lose in the shuffle these days. And yet he still manages to make everybody pay attention when he shows up. And to me, it's like I could almost make the case for him above Gunther. I don't know. We're quibbling at this point. It doesn't matter. But
he also did this as he was on the cusp of being released.
And if in 2 years from now we look back on this and he still hasn't won a notable title or something, you're going to be forced to move him down. You're going to have to. That sucks, but it's going to be, sort of like Cesaro territory or even Sammy at this point with where we've ranked him based on his career. But we're sort of hoping that they're eventually going to be like, well, this guy's hot and he continues to stay that way. We need to make use of that.
Yeah.
There were some other folks down here I wanted to get to. Let's do Matt Hardy. We did Jeff. We feel like we have to do Matt. This is another one that's extremely complicated. I feel like you can't put him below over even though he's been a mid-carder most of his career just because the broken Matt Hardy stuff was as notable in wrestling as just about anything else you can think of over the last 20 years or so. The fact that the man essentially went crazy and they started filming matches at his own house and his own compound and all this other stuff. We can talk about wrestlers who reinvented themselves. Now it's like he sort of blurs the line. Sometimes he's like, I'm still the hardcore legend and I'm teaming with my brother, but I also still do Delete because I don't know. It's what I do now.
We still did Delete when he's completely normal human being at the last pay-per-view. He was still, the crowd was still making him do Delete and he was going along with it.
We've got the Matt 1.0/2.0 stuff with the notable entrances. We've got some comedy chops, more than his brother for sure. His brother's kind of got the personality of a stiff board. But people identified more with Jeff because he did more of the crazy flip stuff, the look, and for some people, they also saw addiction in him. In the case of Matt, it's more so like he never really does. Like when he was a singles guy in WWE, he never really looked like he belonged.
No,
But
not at all.
trying to find himself in these other forms later on, and then sucking up everything else into like this universe over a couple year span, also worked well with COVID. If we're being honest, you know, the ability. It's the same with like the Young Bucks match, where it's like the ability for him to do something kind of off kilter helped him stand out in a way that would not have been expected going into COVID. But I'm like, God, is he really over? Was he ever really over? I know there was huge reactions to Delete and stuff and people chanting along with it. So I'm trying to be realistic here, but I'm like, is he not the epitome of mid card? So I need to know where you fall on him.
I mean, I had him in mid card. The Delete thing, yeah, it's still around right now. But it also like mostly happens outside of WWE anyway. Like so much, like they capitalized it on the back end. We obviously have the Hardys return at WrestleMania, and the WrestleMania me and you were watching together. And we get the big surprise of that. That was really cool. I mean, the thing is, it's like you have a category called inconsistent, and that's not Matt Hardy. Like I'm not suggesting to put him down there, but this man disappeared from wrestling, like in and out with weird shit going on. I mean, think about Jeff having issues. It's not like Matt didn't have his own issues of disappearing and then blurring the lines of reality and actually being crazy and then going back years with Edge and shit like that. I mean, it is all over the place. I mean, again, I've used Carney so many times where I'm like, Matt's the epitome of a carnival, a man who runs a wrestling promotion at a carnival.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he basically did it out of his compound house and again, he has a cult following, of course, for sure, and deservedly so. But I think to your point, I'm like, man, was Matt ever above average in the ring? Ever?
Peak, maybe.
And I'll save it for Christian since they're tied together in this. With the moments and the match types help so much more in that era than his actual wrestling does. And as much as that entertains me, I'm also not going to let it like, oh, you were so great whenever we had a tables, ladders, and chairs match or tables and whatever. It's like, yeah, but that's a gimmick match, and that's not really fair to say you're super great at wrestling because you're so good at this type of a match specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I should be like, man, like the way Lesnar's 3 moves over that same shit. I'm like, that type of match is so entertaining. If that was what I liked, that makes him great. It's like, no, I dock him for that. So I need to also dock guys who live in those match types that I just do happen to enjoy.
I do like the Twist of Fate, but it's basically a cutter. And I like all the cutters. I like the Diamond Cutter. I like the RKO. I like every cutter variation I'm a fan of. Won an ECW title, won a US title, won a European title, won a hardcore title, won a cruiserweight title, a 6-time tag team champion with Jeff. Has some TNA titles as well, including the main title a couple times. But I think I have him in mid card underneath like Sammy.
Those career accomplishments don't beat Kofi. They
I don't think so. Especially because, I mean, even as a tag team, are they the Hardy Boys are iconic. They're probably also top 5. Do they make the heights of the New Day?
Nope.
They want to be revisionist and like give the past not enough credit. But the problem is the Hardy Boys are lumped in exactly as you said with the Dudley Boys and Edge and Christian. All of them deserve credit equally for what happened in that 2 or 3 year span. I don't know. It's tough to rank them comparatively, but if you're fine with Matt and mid, I'm fine with Matt and mid.
That's where I wanted to go, and that's why I wanted to put him on there and be like, this isn't a slight, but I mean, again, yes, he was the TNA's main champion and all that, but I'm also not trying to sit here and shit on it, but I went to a TNA event that drew and it was like 1,800 people. We're not talking about the same level of greatness. The TNA main champion is like the maybe US champion, maybe of the WWE in terms of hierarchy of wrestling over superstardom in the cultural zeitgeist of things.
I want to put Sheamus right next to Cesaro in mid card.
Well, that probably makes sense given they were joined at the hip for a long time.
They were, and Sheamus has better individual accolades than Cesaro does. And that's nothing against Sheamus, who I like. I like his workout videos because you get to see a different side of folks that he has on there. I still won't forgive him for what happened to Daniel Bryan. Again, not his fault, but our 18-second WrestleMania match unfortunately involves him. Entrance is great. It's a shame they won't let him use it again. I still want too many limes. But we'll put him in mid-card because I saw him as I was looking over at Rey Mysterio, who's somebody we definitely need to get on here.
Ooh.
And this is one where it's tough for us. I mean, I guess you're better positioned than I am because I'm not Mexican whatsoever. To some, this is like the guy. I'm not saying he's like legend, but there are some people that would certainly make the case for him in draw.
Oh, I think he should be in draw.
Just given the length of the career, again, we're talking about a guy with WCW roots, but also, you know, it's tough just because akin to Kofi, his title reigns aren't great. One of them gets derailed by Cena immediately. Like there's some stuff in there where it's like, okay, he's won the big title a few times, but like, was he ever like the guy? No.
Shit, no. Maybe he's around over. Again, maybe we have Harper too high because we just feel bad about how that all went.
I keep wanting to move him down further.
Yeah, we're gonna probably have to do that at the end.
I think I'm gonna have to put him on like top of mid card or something.
I think we're gonna have to move him down. I hate it.
I have to do it.
You're
I'm
right.
sorry, Luke. It's just like there probably.
Yeah.
I can't. It's just I love the guy and it sucks what happened. But
the more I looked at that, it doesn't fit. You know, it's weird because I feel like Ray is joined in he's better than this, and so I would slot him right above him. He's weirdly joined in the Big Show region to me, and so maybe I can't do him in draw because I looked at draw, I was like, nah, I can't do that. But the Royal Rumble stuff, being the Iron Man of it, and whatever that is. I mean, what's wild is one of my first memories of Rey Mysterio is him being unmasked, I believe, by Jericho. In WCW, I think it's Jericho's fault that Ray was unmasked, and that's how long ago he was unmasked. By the way, that happened back then when I was a kid. I had to remember if that was the same Rey Mysterio or not when he popped up around later in his career because I know he goes to is he in AAA for a while?
I think so. You're like, is that like the same Psychosis as back then?
Exactly. I'm like, is that the same Ray? Like, is that
the same Sin
Kalisto?
Cara? No, different Sin Cara. Same Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, and so. It was bizarre. I'm like, holy shit, man! Like, good for him. I'm like, I have to have him above his son for now. I have to. Because
yeah, can't be any lower than his son for sure.
Because when he did, granted, maybe it's at not one of WWE's most highest end moments. When
I put Sin Cara and Jobber for the audio listeners. Keep going.
When Ray was hot in the late 2000s, mid 2000s. He was getting pretty big pops.
Yes. And the masks are huge. Kids love the masks. The entrance is great. He's had multiple good entrances, but the Booyaka Booyaka one is still notable. When he came back for the Royal Rumble, that was a huge pop. Mm-hmm. Kind of got lost in the shuffle because I think we were at that one. Is that correct?
Was
that the one we were at? Chase? Or was that the next year?
Might have been the next year. Maybe it wasn't him.
Something happened to where it felt like I got overshadowed because live I didn't realize what a huge pop it was, and I went back and listened, and I was like, oh shit, people love Ray. And again, his importance to Lucha Libre wrestling in general, just Mexican fans of wrestling in general, I don't know. I think I do like him above Big Show. Probably above Booker T.
Okay.
Maybe even at the top of Over. Maybe underneath Kane.
I think he's underneath Kane.
I think that's a good spot. I like that. Let's put him there.
And
because I just don't know about draw. He's never been good enough on his own at the very tippy top and the limited chances he's got because he just doesn't have the great promo skills. He's the quintessential baby face. You never really want to see him turn, and that's fine. And having the kids be able to look up to him constantly is a great thing, but it means he's not as multifaceted as some of the people that are in draw.
It makes him not as dynamic as a character.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. And again, there's a lot of good reasons for that, and like you just listed, so I won't go back through it, but it really does feel like he just gets capped by what his character can kind of be. And you're right. It's the one thing that stands out. Holy shit, is Dominic already better on the mic than Ray ever was?
Yeah.
I think, again, Dominic is still not remotely as good in the ring as, when Ray was on his, and again, I watched a lot of it in WCW because I remember when weirdly we just are renting AAA wrestlers in WCW. We have a lot of Mexican wrestlers wrestling with Kidman and stuff like that, and Jericho. Jericho basically just hated Mexican cruiserweights for a long time in WCW. Ray is so unbelievably entertaining in the ring back then, and that is 30 years ago.
When he's Slater and Jobber.
So it's a good spot for him.
I think that's about the right spot for him. I don't know if I can go too much higher, and it's tough because even in the 2000s he could still go really well, and hell, even for his age now, he has no business moving like he does, especially with the wear and tear on him. He still moves around a lot better than some other wrestlers his age. But I don't know. I feel like it could be some people could say we've underrated him. Let's make sure we have time for the two big ones, then we can maybe rapid fire some last ones just to throw them in there.
Sure.
I think I don't know. Either one you can make the case for. Let's go Sting first and then Triple H, because Triple H is going to be a very interesting case study in how much post-career stuff matters and how much Reign of Terror matters. Whereas Sting, I would have probably had him at the top of Superstar before his AEW run. I know that sounds weird because, like, he didn't really do a ton. Darby carries the majority of their tag team together and the rare appearances he does make. But I have to give AEW credit. They did a great job of protecting Sting, using him only in these big matches. Sting being game to do jumping off the fucking turnbuckle stuff at 64 is crazy. Talk about people moving around better than their age, because you watch like that and then you see Flair from around the same age and you're like, what the fuck? So the way they gave him the send-off that they did raised his estimation for me, because I was not really around for anything prior to WCW, NWO feuding Sting. I know Surfer Sting was over in his own way and all that jazz. I get it. But Sting has to be in Legend now. It's just a question of where.
I mean, I think you just go on the back end. You moved Hogan up. Do you want Sting to be above Hogan in there?
I think you could argue Sting could be as high as above Randy Orton.
Wow.
Because he carries that company for
That's fair.
4 to 5 years as the only guy opposing the NWO for the most part. Yes.
Yeah.
DDP, yes. There's a little bit of Luger in there. Like, there's some others, but like Sting is like the stalwart force in that faction. And he's also not bad in TNA.
Yeah.
Nobody really cares about TNA, but still, he was a big time player there.
And WCW does choose to write him as being imposing. I mean, Hogan's character in the NWO is afraid of like two people. The Ultimate Warrior is showing back up, which he was like freaked out about when they wrote that angle, and Sting just perpetually existing.
He was cool. How many kids in my high school wore trench coats because of Sting?
Yeah.
It wasn't just Sting. There's other reasons that trench coats were like trendy at the time, but like the face paint, the baseball bat, the descending from the rafters, like the guy sort of oozed cool. And was he ever a great promo? Not really, no.
And
but he's a better talker than a Mysterio or something.
Yeah, we built his character that way to avoid him talking.
He just shows up out of nowhere, kicks some ass. And I don't know, I think the funniest thing that ever happened in wrestling is him sitting in the crowd, taking off a mask of Sting and being face painted underneath
face paint
Sting.
Yes, he was fake NWO Sting who had a plastic mask over it, and then he becomes real Sting.
That is just the funniest thing to me.
Yeah, I mean, man, wrestling, when it didn't take itself super seriously, like the Nash leg thing on the wheelchair, and like so many of the like mid 90s, late 90s things from WCW, man, they're so fucking funny. Yeah, I mean, longevity wise, I guess again, I don't know what to do with Jericho's end of his career run here.
Yeah,
because Sting and Jericho feel vaguely similar, I guess, in that way of being around for a long time through multiple companies, kind of staggered, obviously at a different run in a way, although I guess they're working in AEW together. Yeah,
I think I'm going to put him between Rollins and Jericho.
Okay.
I think Orton has too good of a career.
I think when you said Orton, I was taking it back where I'm like, I could do over Rollins. I don't think I can do over Orton.
I think I like them in between those two because Sting has some ties to Rollins in his brief time in WWE.
Oh yeah, really negative ones.
Yeah, they're not phenomenal ones. And he is similar to Jericho in a way, you're right, and also the complete opposite, where Jericho was the master of reinventing himself, and Sting never really did.
No, I mean, he becomes Surfer Sting to
Crow Sting, and that's it.
And then
but it works.
And he has some red face paint to blend in with Wolfpack, which was pretty cool.
And there's some TNA stuff with like aces and eights and whatnot. But for the most part, he's just Crow Sting most of his career.
Yeah. Which is crazy because I don't think anyone understands that reference when you're young in modern day. And yet it's a big fucking deal.
But it never overstayed its welcome.
Oh.
Somehow. Maybe because they did such a good job protecting it. Because like even Taker's got the biker phase. Like a lot of the other people in this top tier have some other phase of their career where there's something else. And Sting never really did.
You know, the way you judge, I feel like I'm thinking about like the Sting shirts where it's just his face paint. It's just his face with the paint on it. And it's like, how many guys are you going to wear a shirt where it's just their face? I say as I have a shirt with a guy's face on it. So
I mean, you could do it with Hogan because of the prominent handlebar mustache.
Yeah.
I've seen some stuff with Taker. Mysterio,
it's,
I guess, but that's the mask more than it is the
Yeah.
face.
Like
There's
really,
not a lot.
it is just his face itself. It's
Yeah.
recognizable.
And then Triple H. This is a weird one. Obviously, we're now talking about COO or whatever the hell his title is. Triple H. We've talked about him as the grandfather of NXT for a long time, and people really liked him as a booking contrast to Vince, who was still in charge then. There's no question in the career accolades. I'm not even going to pull him up, but he has to be double digits as far as world title reigns go, tag team stuff with DX, intercontinental stuff. Certainly, there's some politicking. There's no question about that. His wife is proof of that.
It's called politicking, by the way.
We know that him and Shawn Michaels and Hall and Nash, all with the clique and whatnot, were sort of running things behind the scenes and jockeying for position in ways that weren't necessarily ideal. In the moment, in the mid-2000s, as a guy who still watched a decent amount of wrestling, you could certainly feel the fatigue with him. Here he comes with the damn sledgehammer and the damn Motorhead entrance and the water spitting, and he's here again. He's in the title scene again.
He got overbooked easily.
Yes, and he is responsible for somebody like a Booker T maybe not getting quite to the heights they should have. But I think he still has to be in Legend. I think when you take the summation of everything in his career and the stuff after it, it's tipped the scale to where it's like, I just don't think he can be only in Superstar.
Oh, no, I thought that was I wasn't sure how high you wanted to go in Legend because
I don't know.
He has crazy connections to Flair, Michaels, Hart, Reigns, Orton, and Rollins. He is integral in a way.
And Sting, kind of.
He's integral to, I mean, maybe not integral to Flair, but like he is tied with Michaels very closely. I guess Hart, he's on the back end of, but still it's not that far apart. I mean, he's basically the epitome of fucking over Reigns before Reigns turns heel. I mean, shit, Reigns' heel character is almost fucking developed out of the fact that Triple H is being annoying to him on screen and the crowd not liking him.
Yep.
Orton and Triple H it's obvious. I mean, and Rollins' persona, I mean, Rollins is a pedigree for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to say that he's not, I mean, he has to be in that mix of guys because he is, it's not, again, the Mick Foley is a helpful piece to Undertaker, Rock, Austin's careers. Triple H is side by side with all of those guys, to me. And again, but Batista would be up there if Batista stuck around longer and didn't do a bunch of other cool stuff outside the ring. But Triple H has made wrestling his life. And so he's got to land up somewhere in those guys. I just don't really know where.
I have him above Orton right now.
I think I can't go above Michaels.
No. I can't go above Michaels. Some people would have Michaels in their Mount Rushmore. We talked about that back then. I don't mind where Michaels is. I don't have him. Bret Hart's a weird one. We had him next to Shawn Michaels out of convenience. You can certainly argue what could have been with Hart. That was not his fault because Goldberg infamously kicked him in the head. I don't know. To me, I look at a guy like Triple H and like Flair, it's like he's part of two of the biggest factions of all time. And there's no accident about him being the Venn diagram in the middle of it. Just like with Flair with the Horsemen and then Evolution. Triple H has got both DX and Evolution. And he doesn't feel out of place in either. And he's one of the biggest factors in both. You could quibble with him and Reigns. You know, it's like Triple H has the longer, more decorated career, although barely, because Reigns has all sorts of accolades in his time. I kind of like him next to Orton just because their career paths being intertwined.
I think that's the correct. I don't know how you put Triple H behind Orton either. I think the more I look at that,
I don't think you can. As good as Orton has been for as long as he's been, I think Triple H just has him pipped.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no,
and there's no scenario where Rollins can be above Triple H.
No, exactly. I mean, again, we could tease Orton, save for Orton having like another huge long run, like a goodbye run, like Cena's doing right now. Like if we do Orton in that way and it comes out really well, sure, I could hear it out. That Orton could shift up on that list. Rollins has still got a long time to go, I think, although I'm still worried about his back and the things we've teased about that. But you're right. It almost feels like to the lines you're talking about where there's a cutoff there, it almost feels like there's a gatekeeping where Reigns is, in a way for where Triple H is now. To where they're really tied together, and I don't know how there'd be anybody left. I mean, we're pretty much done with it to get ahead of Reigns, and Triple H can't do it.
I think that's the right spot for him. And again, Bret Hart is a bit of a weird one here. He's probably a little high, just based on what he was able to do. Owen's not on the list. It's a similar problem there, right? Like, do you rate what could have been and was tragically ruined? I don't even know if I want to rank Owen. But given what's on here, I think that's right. Or at least it's close to right. I'm not going to say we've nailed every single ranking left to right, one by one in every tier, but that looks about the right place to me. Because I don't think he can be any lower, and I'm having a hard time pushing him higher.
Also, for anyone interested, go look up Triple H's early part of his career, because Stephanie just sat down with him, I think, and talked about this on her ESPN show. Man, the early start of Triple H's character in his career is really funny.
Yeah.
When he is Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Yeah. And he looks like a proper English gentleman.
Yes. Proper English gentleman Triple H is trying to do an accent. I think he was also French for a while before we even got to that one. He turned from French to English, and then he became dickhead. And that's just, it's fucking hilarious.
So that essentially brings this to an end. I want to throw a few more people on here. If you see somebody you want to throw in, make the case. I'm putting Shane McMahon in inconsistent.
That would be a fair one.
Love the entrance theme. Hell, I even put him on top of inconsistent because, boy, at his peak, the man was willing to do anything and throw himself off of anything to get over. And then the later years where he just kept getting hurt and being old really, really hurt that image.
Yeah, I really shouldn't celebrate it, but being in the crowd for him blowing out his legs is one of the funniest things
and then
I have ever seen.
The Miz having to kind of dance around him and improvise, and then they have to call in Snoop Dogg. And
if you've ever wondered, for a group of people who are used to being bullshitted and then aren't sure if they're being bullshitted in the moment and are all looking around at each other like, what a way to effectively have gone out.
I don't know if I want to put X-Pac in. He'd be a mid-card if he was.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best you can do.
And again, there's plenty of jobbers down here that we're not even going to bother to rank because to me they're a tier below jobber. Because,
Tajiri?
Fucking Heath Slater got over at a certain points from being a jobber. He wasn't like a footnote, but he also never did anything.
Yeah, see, I was looking at, is Zack Ryder there? Because Zack Ryder is the same as that. But
does Samoa Joe just get put in mid?
Yeah.
I feel bad leaving him off, but I know he's been a champion on top of both AEW and TNA.
Nah, he goes hand in hand with Scott Steiner.
Oh, God, that's a sad sentence you've said, but...
I mean, he's better than Scott Steiner.
I can't even put him above Sammy because Sammy has better crowd reactions.
Yeah.
I'm just looking through as we're
to be fair,
if
Matt's highest part of his career is TNA and Samoa Joe's highest part of his career is TNA, are you wrong there? I don't think so.
I'm going to go ahead and, for your sake, I'm going to put Pat McAfee in inconsistent next to Logan Paul.
Cool. Both a bunch of dickheads together. That's great.
I'll put him next to Dre Lawler as well for the commentary angle. I think you would like that.
Sure. That's all fitting. Who did I just say? I saw someone that I was thinking of.
Yeah, keep looking.
I said Road Dogg.
Yeah, Road Dogg and...
You want to bother or are you going to make mid-card too big?
Might make mid-card too big. They're the epitome of mid-card. They had their catchphrases and whatnot, but that's really,
I was like,
Road Dogg's a step above Mr. Ass. But
he is, by far.
Mr. Perfect is a fascinating one. He should probably be an over, even though he wasn't.
You want to do
one of the best technical wrestlers of all time. Had more personality than he ever got credit for. The thing with him throwing a football spiral to himself still lives in my head to this day. Which, is not possible, but they edited it and it looked great. Let me go ahead and put Mr. Kennedy in jobber while
That's what I was going to say. Where do you want to put Mr. Kennedy?
I'm going to put him below Lance Storm. I don't even know if I care to rank Mr. Perfect. I know for our old head fans that were following the earlier parts, that's probably going to be blasphemy, but I think he'd be somewhere around over. He wasn't a draw.
I'm trying to see if we can we can add another one.
Luger.
Oh, yeah.
Luger. I have Luger and over, which is probably higher than some people would. But, man, he was a big deal for a while in WCW. And he had a pretty good run in WWF in the early 90s as well. And, yes, he didn't have a whole lot to him. Yes, he was kind of just running around in USA shorts and just flexing on people to put him in the torture rack and whatnot. I get it. But somehow it worked. I had him at the very bottom of over, to be clear, but I don't think he belongs in mid-card.
No, I mean, he's tied together with Sting, right? For a fair amount of that WCW
run? A fair amount of that, because they're one of the few guys who were ever fighting back against the NWO.
I think he
So-
deserves to be up there.
And given the Hall of Fame run, I think it's helped people kind of wax a little more sentimental about him, and now this doesn't feel as out of place as it would have like 5 years ago.
It is weird because he just feels like weirdly like disappear, like not disappears, but he's just there. He's just there for a lot of his career, off to the side where a lot of other stuff is happening. I guess
Hornswoggle's a jobber.
a great jobber at that.
Sure. There's guys on here like Johnny Gargano or Adam Cole that we're not going to rank, who are guys I like, but they would be mid card at best.
Oh, we didn't do Christian.
Oh yeah, we're making our way back up. All right, we can maybe finish on him then. We're just gonna make sure there's nobody else that's like bad as an omission. If there's anybody else I see that needs to be thrown in,
You're omitting the Godfather. How dare you?
yeah. The ho Trey.
You're omitting Elias. Also, how dare you?
Damian Priest is not appearing in this film. You could argue he's close to the guys we mentioned as like super hot right now, but
I still don't see it. I'm sorry. I just don't get behind much of it.
it's just the bisexual Latin Undertaker vibes. That's
I mean, there's
what
that.
people like.
It's not. It's sure. It's that. Just man, I I feel like a lot of other wrestlers have done him a lot of favors, and I've watched his matches, and I've seen fuck ups in a lot of like in his matches a lot, and whether they're all on him or he's just bad luck, I have come away really unimpressed with a lot of Damian Priest stuff.
Kira Tozawa's and Jobber. All right, let's finish up with Christian then. That's how we'll wrap this one up as
Okay.
we approach an hour here, because he is one guy we wanted to talk to. I know you have a connection there. The simplest thing would be to put him next to Edge. He doesn't belong next to
No.
Edge.
Can't
Does
go
not
that.
have the individual career, although he does have some individual accolades as well, particularly a notable series with Orton back in the late 2000s.
My
Obviously
question,
known for tag team stuff. Is kind of funny in how he's reinvented himself in AEW as this father figure of sorts who disparages everybody else who doesn't have a father figure. That's been a fun little twist for him. Is a guy like you always want to have around, but never ever really rose to the top. So where you want to put him is fascinating. So I'm going to kind of defer to you on this one.
I wonder because overall he's got a better career than Matt Hardy.
Yes.
But it feels like he belongs somewhere right around that spot. Like, sure, he's better overall, but do we really stick him that much higher than Matt in the big grand scheme of things? And again, we're going to keep adding to mid card, which I guess is annoying and unfortunate. But I just feel like that's where he kind of goes. I think like when he and Edge are together as the tag team, the charisma shows up a lot, and then it does work when he's on his own. I mean, when we were three brands, he's kind of the head of the ECW brand of WWE, right? Am I miss on that?
No, he was definitely prominent in it.
But again, that's also the brand that's on the Sci-Fi Channel or whatever it was. Like,
Yeah.
there's a reason why that brand was further down the card in the WWE itself, and is like kind of forgotten that it was even like Ezekiel Jackson is like a big deal on that brand. So it's like that tells you what the WWE thought of its own thing and how much more prominent was it than TNA even at that point. And so I just feel like he lands somewhere around the Samoa Joe Matt Hardy spot. Again, I have great memories of him, and again, the Gangrel thing, and then the Hardys thing. Like, it's all fascinating, but Edge blew up over that, and Edge's gap over Christian is small. Is maybe similar to Jeff's edge over Matt, I guess. But then I'm like, well, if it's smaller, then Edge is higher. It's I don't know. I wanted to bring him up just because he's such a weird person, honestly, who's still wrestling, I think.
Yeah. He's been like a B- his whole career.
Yes.
And I like Christian, so I'm not trying to disparage him when I say that. I think what's happening is Kofi's going up. Congratulations. And then Christian's going to go... I moved him. There he is.
He does actually have the ECW logo on his face, so I was
Yeah.
correct.
I think mid-card's as high as he can go.
Yeah.
He probably never got a fair shake as a singles wrestler because he actually was doing pretty good work. He also got hurt at one point during that, and that didn't help. My final act of defiance as we wrap this up is I'm putting Finn Balor on top of inconsistent. And that is probably rude. I like Finn quite a bit. He had a good career prior to WWE on the Indies, so it feels like selling him short because his time as the Prince was certainly good as well. I think I'm mostly frustrated by their handling of him. That's not a reflection of him and his work, but the fact that we have no idea how good he is at any given time. It's like he's like the most amorphous wrestler on the roster, because you can throw him in a title match and be like, oh yeah, Finn Balor, and then he can be jobbing out for 3 straight months, and you're like, oh yeah, Finn Balor, that makes sense. And let's not even talk about the Demon, who was cool at first, but then they ruined that just like they ruined the Fiend.
I mean, the clear turning point, because I correct me if I'm wrong, but Finn is the first Universal Champion. And then Rollins destroyed his shoulder.
Yep.
And
that lasts like a 2-week span or something. It's bad.
And that is the epitome of Finn's career, of those highs and then relinquishing the title on those lows, and he never got back to that.
Never did. And
he's
they
never
put him in the mix as though he was going to a few times. Hell, he was a credible challenger to Brock Lesnar at one point, but
and he's never going to.
Not
He is
now.
what he is. I
Doesn't
also
feel like
assume he's going to leave the company when his contract's up. He doesn't strike me as someone's going to stick around.
That feels disrespectful because the other people in that tier who either all seriously flawed or, as the tier suggests, inconsistent. But again, that's more my frustration with the way he's been used and not what he has done. He's only 43. Like, he could still have another 10 years if he really wanted to, especially with those abs. But I'm frustrated with the way he's been used, so the hell with it.
I mean, it is one of the more baffling things of the last, 15 years. 10 years, whatever it's been.
And, he's got some tag team runs now because of Judgment Day as a title holder. He has a U.S. title. He has the Universal title. He's got a couple Intercontinentals.
And the bummer with that is he's the B person in Judgment Day every step of the way. Because he takes it over, sure, whatever. Then we have the match I went to between him and Edge at WrestleMania, and that doesn't go well because he gets cut open in the middle of it. We have to stop the match, basically. We have Dom be gross and annoying and then get over that. We use Judgment Day to push Priest up. He's a gatekeeper in his own faction. And that sucks.
That does.
Like, that is the epitome of what it is. And I don't know how many guys have been used in that role. But also, there's been, no development in his character for, a year now.
He feels like the forgotten man in the faction because Rhea and Damien
and we never
Dominic have all kind of taken off on their own. And
yeah.
It's just him and JD McDonough now who are being like... Because even Carlito has those little funny moments. Now, Carlito's not as important as Finn Balor, but
we've used it to elevate Rhea and Liv to the top of the women's division. We've used it to make Dom one of the most hated heels. We use it to push Priest to the title level. And all Finn does is sit there and be making smart-ass looking Jim in the office looks to the fucking camera over and over again as we're are you going to ever turn on these people? We keep teasing it and you have dissension and this and that. And they're just they don't want it because they don't want to pull the trigger on killing the group. And if you have him turn, it kills the group because he's the de facto boring leader of it. And it just saps him of all of his charisma.
Yeah, unfortunately. And as a final act of defiance, I'm moving Jimmy Uso down to inconsistent.
Once you open the door to it doesn't have to be only bad people or whatever. I mean, again, I think Jimmy straight up sucks. So I said it.
I don't even know what he's doing right now. He's sort of like the fourth wheel in what's left of the Bloodline story at the moment.
That's a good point. I don't know what he's doing. He teamed with his brother recently.
Some outside of the ring stuff as well. So I look at mid-card and he looks completely out of place there now.
He became the mystery tag partner to Jay in Scotland that we wanted Joe Hendry to be. And that pissed everybody off because he sucks. And it's oh, cool. Jimmy tagged with his brother again. Thanks.
Wow. Who would have seen that coming? And there might be an Uso reunion at some point. I'd like to see them have one more run as a tag team once they've done some of their single stuff. Or I guess at this point, Jay has done some of the single stuff.
Once Jimmy's done eating all of catering.
I think this is where I'm going to stop.
Yep.
I don't know what to do with Owen Hart.
That's an incomplete. How do you even possibly we talk about Bret Hart being cut off and we didn't get a good enough look at that and a couple other guys. It's Owen, it's not worth putting Owen up there because it's just really sad and it's a horrific moment in the company's history for the influence of some of the people on the list. And you're just making assumptions of what maybe would have been, and it's not worth it.
And I just wasn't around enough in the 80s to know enough about Ted DiBiase, enough about the Iron Sheik, enough about...
I'm not either,
obviously. Yeah, you're younger than I am, so it makes sense. Vader, another guy, freakish athleticism for a guy his size in that era. But, I don't... The only other one I thought about was Warrior, and I don't even know what to do with him either. Massive for a span of the 90s, for sure. But, flawed as a human being.
Yeah, I mean, he's
cutting a promo a day before his death is still simultaneously cool and eerie at the same time. Like,
It's weird.
so I don't think I'm just going to leave him off because he'd probably be somewhere in over. I don't know that you could push for draw, but he was never the main guy because he was overshadowed by, like a lot of people, Hogan. So I think I'm going to leave him off, and I'm going to put Yoshitatsu and Jobber, and we're done.
No Rikishi?
No Rikishi, who would probably be mid-card.
But you know what? Rikishi might be upset with where you ranked his son.
Well, his son's got a good ranking.
But he still might be upset about it.
Well, he probably would be, yeah, because he's not a legend. But unfortunately for Rikishi, he's not a legend.
Again, the last thing I'll say is, while we don't rank Rikishi, you would think that Jimmy is not his son, as the fact that he never talks about Jimmy at all.
Yeah.
It's really, really funny to me that he bitches about Jay's booking and he does not give a shit about Jimmy. If you ever needed a reason to put Jimmy in inconsistent, it's the fact that his father, who doesn't shut up, hasn't been bothered to talk about him.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, shout out for Tajiri for avoiding Jobber.
Man.
Because I thought about it.
Some of those, Sunday Night Heat or whatever, I swear, when we had him around that. And, well, I guess, K-Quick, which is our truth.
With the Buzzsaw Kick and the Mist and stuff, he has a few titles. I feel like he gets to avoid Jobber.
That's fair.
But he was presented as a jobber for a lot of his career. All right, I look at the list. I don't see anything else that's in massive need of changing. You can quibble with anything, and we could sit here and 2 weeks from now, it turns out that Braun wins a title and we have to move him up or whatever. Like, you can always tweak these things, and hell, maybe in a couple of years down the road we will. We'll come back to this and just spend an episode looking at it and moving things around. But I kind of like where we've ended up. As a reminder for the people who can't see, the top tier remained just Taker, Rock, Austin, Cena, and I'm fine with that. Like, are Flair and Michaels worthy of being in a top tier? Sure, but I like the fact that we have like the Mount Rushmore of sorts, the 4 horsemen. And then, our second tier had HBK, Hart, Reigns, Triple H, Orton, Rollins, Sting, Jericho, Hogan. None of those feel out of place. After that, again, you start getting to the point where it's like, well, Rey Mysterio was ranked 39th and he should have been 37th. And we're like, okay, I don't. Real quick, what I'll do is I will bring up. Do this quickly. Well, I need to get out of full screen, first of all. I want to pull up the group list real quick. I know we're running long, but why can't I
delete it?
I want to make that in a new tab. Fine, let's save this so I don't lose it. Live on air, Wrestling 4, even though I never saved Wrestling 3. Don't worry about that. Because I want to look at the group list briefly so we can see what they got wrong. I do want to download it. Then I want to go back to this and go see. I think I'm going to have to go through the menus, and it's fine. Join me on this journey together, live, but not live, pre-recorded. There we go. I think I have to go back into create it. And then, finally, they're usually up here. So now I guess I'm screwed and they don't have them here.
Wow.
What was the point of all of that then?
Cut it. Jumped right here.
Yeah, the episode just ends.
There you go.
Here we go. I don't know why that was so hard. It's usually the top, but people were not as stingy about that top tier as we were, which is fine. The group top tier has a couple people that we don't even have in Legend, but has all of ours: Cena, Taker, Rock, Austin. Also has Edge, which, I mean, I love Edge, but no. Has Michaels, which is fine. A lot of people would have that as one of their top 4. Has Punk? No. Jericho, Triple H, fine. Mysterio, I don't know about Icon. You want to put him in Legend, maybe. Looking at the Legend tier, unsurprisingly, Jeff Hardy, beloved by people more than us. Sure. Fine. Kane in Legend, I don't know about that. Big Show in Legend, I don't know about that.
I'm sorry. Having having a lot of those guys, and I don't know how it works in terms of ordering and all that. Having all those guys above Reigns, if you're gonna stick some of that shit in Icon, Reigns has to be an Icon. I'm sorry. If that's what you want to go to, they get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And then we get to Superstar, and the list starts to fall apart because R-Truth is in there. Sheamus is in there. Bobby Lashley, who we didn't even rank, is in there. Rob Van Dam, who we didn't rank, is in there. So this starts to kind of fall apart, which is to be expected. I'm sure there's a lot of variance in some of these middle tier folks. Let's see.
Carlito's a draw.
Let's just scroll down because there's too many people in here. Who ended up in Jobber? Is anybody in Jobber who doesn't belong? James Ellsworth was absolutely a jobber. I don't remember if I put him in there. I think I did way back when, and then I forgot about him. What the hell is Kevin Thorne? I don't even know who that is. Third row, almost on the right. Has an ECW logo. I've heard of damn near everybody on this list in some form.
He vaguely looks familiar from the ECW time, again, when on Sci-Fi. Vaguely, but like, I couldn't pick him out of a lineup without being told he was on ECW.
Marty Jannetty in Jobber is funny. Heidenreich and Snitsky next to each other is funny.
I'm enjoying Top Dollar being on Jobber for this list, as he is among the main card of TNA right now, which, holy shit, is a funny thing.
That's a sentence. Darren Young is down here. That's unfair. Happy Pride Month. But I actually don't see anybody in the Jobber list that doesn't belong. You could argue more people could be in it, but I'm looking at everybody in this list. I mean, I guess the one some people would probably quibble with the most is Cassius Ohno. Unfortunately, Cassius Ohno is a jobber.
Yes.
Chris Sabin is a different story.
Yes.
But I actually don't necessarily mind that one either. But that's the one name that stands out as far as like, well, that guy had some success somewhere.
Yeah, but I mean, people who are familiar with Ohno are also going to be familiar with him being kind of out of shape in NXT.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to an NXT show and there was a Cassius Dono sign for donut.
I remember that.
And that was really fucking funny to me and mean as
I mean, it's very unfair, but also fair.
Doink is not inconsistent. Doink is jobber.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can quibble with some of this. We won't worry about some of the ones that are in this list that should be in jobber, but okay, so overall not terrible. And again, a group list is one going to be tough, but it's nice to see at least who ended up there. And again, some people will give out S's/top tier, in this case icon, more freely than we do. I don't regret our decision. I like where our top two tiers in particular ended up. That's it for us. Next week, we'll be back with something. I can't look that far into the future because this was already 2 weeks ago when we recorded it, so I don't know what's happening 3 weeks from now. Give me a fucking break. But some of us will be here in some form or another. Maybe it's the game show. I don't know. And hell, we're also coming down the pipe on episode 700. That'll be before the end of the year, so stay tuned for that. In between shows, you can find us at our website, grayareas.live, or youtube.com/@grayareaslive. We will see you next week.